So I just got back from M. Night Shyamalan's new movie, Split, starring James McAvoy as a patient who has 23 different personalities, each of them not knowing what the other one thinks, which makes for a really interesting movie as far as I'm concerned. I was really excited for this one, hoping it can basically get rid of the stereotype that January movies are complete dog shit. And throughout this movie, I was really hoping for no twists. I didn't want them to Shyamalan it up, like he has in his previous films. I wanted him to get back on the horror track record. And I'm gonna say I was not disappointed with this one. In fact, this movie kind of exceeded my expectations, which were already pretty high to begin with. Some pros are the main actors, the doctor and the main girl that was kidnapped. They do a pretty good job in their roles, actually convincing you pretty well that what is happening is real. But the cake, and my personal award, if I were to give one out, would have to go to James McAvoy. Now, I've been a huge fan of McAvoy ever since X-Men, Wanted, and one of his lesser known roles, Filth. If you haven't seen it, great movie. Disgusting though. Don't watch with kids. But this has to be by far his best role that he's done yet. He's perfect at it, honestly. Every scene that starts to become dry, he immediately picks it right back up. The conversations he has with himself, but different personalities, are some of the creepiest things I've seen in film in a while. I haven't had a good horror movie put me on the edge of my seat as much as this one did in quite some time. Throughout the whole movie, it does a really good job drawing you in, wanting you more for questions. It really drives home the point that you want to understand what's going on, what's happening, what is James McAvoy going to do next. I've never been more nervous when I see an actor on screen more than I have seen him in this movie. It's just something with his character. You never know what he's going to do. The cinematography is great. The score just emphasizes the suspense in the movie with the camera angles and the plot. Some things I don't like about this movie are the sub-actors, the second-tier actors, I would say. The two girls that the main one gets kidnapped with are pretty ditzy, typical teenage high school girls, and they say some stupid shit, and they try to get away with stuff, and, it's kind of predictable, which would go under the cons category also. There's a few scenes where stuff's starting to happen, and you're like, well, this isn't going to end well, and it really doesn't. So I would put that as something a drawback. Without McAvoy in it, it can get pretty dry also. There's a scene with the doctor where she's doing a Skype call for a conference explaining different personas from different patients and how they work. But this is about halfway through the movie. We've seen McAvoy interact. We know kind of the basics, what you need to know, how it works. So it seemed kind of unnecessary for me, but although still kind of interesting. Something I also was kind of a con for me was the audience's reaction to the movie. Now, James McAvoy's, some of his personas are women, and when he dresses up like a woman, he talks like a woman, acts like a woman, and it's great. But for a really general audience, there was some laughter in some scenes where he was just goofy. Also, when he was the little kid, he just became really weird, and people started laughing. And I'll admit, it drew me in too. I started laughing at some things, but also you can kind of flip that because he was doing such a good job at it. So it's really tough with a general audience to get a gauge on how well it is, I guess, but I personally thought he was amazing. So maybe I would suggest going to a matinee where there's not a big audience and you can experience the film yourself and get your own opinion about it. Really good movie for a Saturday night. Turn off all the lights. Let's sit and watch this. So like I said, the whole movie is going through, and I really didn't want them to Shyamalan it up. I didn't want glasses of water to be the saving factor. I didn't want it to be aliens, and I was really scared of this whole thing approaching about the Beast. They want the Beast to come. And the way they described it, I was ready for an 11-foot tall CGI James McAvoy. No spoilers, but we didn't get that. The ending was satisfying. Everything wraps up very nicely. I would say it was probably one of the better, if not the best, ending. I know, Sixth Sense, he's dead. But this was honestly one of M. Night Shyamalan's better movies. And the low bar that M. Night Shyamalan has set for me, I would rank this probably my favorite one. This is actually a really damn good movie. Despite its flaws, I would highly suggest seeing it. And my final score is an above average 8 out of 10. Go see this movie. It deserves high praise. I would hope and please James McAvoy get nominated for some awards because he blew my mind in the roles I guess you could say that he did in this movie. He's outstanding. Go see it. And that's my first review for my channel. Thanks for coming out. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. See you later. There goes a sight from my soul. There goes a sight.